Shalom, shalom. First and foremost, I'd like to give all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Rakakadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone for teaching us truth, and salutations to the sincere Akim and Aquath that may listen. May the blessing of election be over your house. My name is Brother Okwai. I'm back in here with another video, and the topic for today is actually an article that I came across earlier today, and I just thought I would bring this out because I just think it's interesting what's going on. So the article is about King Charles and Camilla. I'm not sure what her title is. So I'm going to bring out a little bit of Dark Ages history, and wherever the spirit leads, right? So, and Yahweh Lord willing, this article will be edifying, right? So, without further ado, let's just get into the article. Actually, I think I have it opened. Okay. So, man detained after appearing to throw eggs at King Charles and Camilla. So, I think this happened. Oh, this happened today, actually. Okay, so the news is fresh. All right, so I'm just going to read it out and then pause, bring a couple precepts, an excerpt, and then, Yahweh Ratazah, this video will be edifying. So, a man has been detained by police after throwing eggs at King Charles and Camilla and the Queen consort during a walkabout in York. Several police officers were seen restraining the suspect on the ground behind temporary fencing set up Micklegate Bar in the city for the King's visit on Wednesday. The King and Queen consort were being welcomed to York by city leaders when a protester apparently threw eggs at them, all of which missed before the pair were ushered away. The man was heard to boo the royals as he threw eggs and to shout his country was built of the blood of slaves and not my king. Right? So there's been a little bit of tension, ever since this year, as a matter of fact, because this tension went back as far back as early this March, and you brothers and sisters can look this up. There was an article that came out, and there's some videos on this as well, actually, about the colonies, like Belize, I believe, was one of them. Jamaica was another, and there was another country in Central America where a lot of the Israelites, those countries there, they were upset because over Great Britain, right, and over the royals visiting, because there's really and truly no purpose of their visit. And what you find is that our people, Israelites, are very angry and upset over what has happened in the past. So the past is still a thorn, in these people's side, right? Talking about these noble, Edomite families, right? That are ruling this world at the moment, right? So let's continue. As a matter of fact, hold on. Let's get a precept. Okay, so this is Luke 8:17. For nothing is secret that shall not be made manifest, neither anything hid that shall not be made known and come abroad, right? So all this information now is coming out about a lot of the stuff that happened during slavery, and those wounds haven't been healed yet, right? There hasn't been a recompense, right? And this is why a lot of Jake's Israelites in those islands and other colonies where Britain colonized, they're angry over this, right? Let's continue. One of the eggs appeared to be fended off by the sheriff of York. Susie Mercer was one of the was part of the group of officials welcoming the king. Some people in the crowd started chanting, "God save the king," while others shouted, "Shame on you," at the protester, right? As police were detaining the man, Charles appeared unfazed and continued to greet the crowds. He continued to take part in traditional ceremony, in which the sovereign is officially welcomed to York by the Lord Mayor through the gates of the city. Right? All right. So let's. Oh, okay. Hang on. The king and queen consort were visiting Yorkshire on Wednesday to carry out a number of engagements. They were in York to attend the unveiling of a statue of Queen Elizabeth, and the first has been installed since her death. Speaking at the ceremony at York Minster, Charles said the late queen was always vigilant for the welfare of her people during the life. Now her image will watch over what will become Queen Elizabeth Square for centuries to come, right? But they may be doing this. They may be doing this statue to commemorate her so-called contributions, right? But that's not the sentiment that is shared amongst our people that are mingled and are still there in those islands, and especially in the Caribbean islands and the Central America where Britain had colonized, right? So that sentiment is not completely shared because Britain has profited over the backs and over the energy and the resources from these different islands, right? Because if you read Revelation 20, it refers to Europe. It refers to Europe as a bottomless pit. As a matter of fact, let me just grab it because I don't want to butcher it. So this is Revelation 20:1, and I saw an angel come down from heaven having a key of a bottomless pit and a great chain in his hand. So the bottomless pit refers to slavery. Sorry, Salakia. The bottomless pit refers to Europe. Salakia, that's my fault. Europe, right? And because there is nothing that grows there. So what Britain had to do, as well as other European colonies, after the Edomites, these so-called white people started getting into power over there, they began to go to these other nations, especially in the Caribbean, Central America, and parts of Africa as well. They went there and they began to get resources, right? They got they got slaves first, and then they used the slaves to get the resources, and they got the resources to be able to extract and bring back to those lands. And that's one of the things that Columbus had done, during his voyage, right? And a great chain in his hand, and the chain represents slavery. And he laid hold on the dragon, that old serpent, which is the devil and Satan himself, and bound him 1,000 years, right? So this 1,000-year period refers to the time of those what is known as the Holy Roman Empire. It's from approximately about 320, about 300 AD, Anno Domini, which is Latin for after the death of Yahweh Shai Mashiach, up until about 1300s, and gradually we began to slowly fall, right? It wasn't a immediate process. So you had countries that were for example, one of the first few countries that fell into the power of the Edomites were the like Spain and Portugal, right? You had King Ferdinand and Queen Elizabeth, and eventually, as time went by, the Renaissance period kicked in, which Renaissance is a French word. It means the naissance means birth, and re means back, so it means rebirth essentially, right? And countries such as Britain, France, they were still being led and still being controlled by Israelites, right? So eventually we slowly started to decline during those 1,000 years, right? Let's see. The 2-meter sculpture weighing 1.1 ton, made from Lepine limestone from France, was designed to celebrate the late Queen's Platinum Jubilee. It was completed in August, a month before her death. Right? So clearly this is a sentiment that is not shared, like I was saying earlier, with the Israelites and other people, because they have a very unfilthy they have a very filthy history, right, of slavery, of killing Israelites, and then that is still a thorn in the side up to this day, right? So let's see what the scriptures have to say about that. So this is Ecclesiasticus, or Sirach 10 verse 8. Because of unrighteous dealings, injuries, and riches got by deceit, the kingdom is translated from one people to another, right? So that is slowly going to start happening, right? Because all this information is coming out, in regards to their filthy past, right? And this is something that they won't even teach in the schools. They won't even talk about slavery like it never happened, right? Especially in American history, like they trying to wipe it away because it's a shame onto them. So because the article speaks a little bit about King Charles, I just want to bring out a little bit of history in regards to King Charles. Not the King Charles that is, this guy in the, in power today. I want to be referring to a King Charles who was known as he was actually a so-called black man, an actual king during the time of the Dark Ages, right? So let me see if I could just pull up see if I got a picture of him. Okay, so this is an image I have on the screen. So this is King Charles the First, and he was actually the son of King James, the same King James that who's orchestrated the popular Bible that we use up to this day. And he was a king during the time of, I think it was about 1600s, after the passing of King James, and he was ruling. As a matter of fact, I want to read a bit of an excerpt from this book called not Babylon to Timbuktu, sorry. It's called The Negro Question Part 4, The Missing Link. And this is a book I came across on the Elders channel, Elder Malcolm, in Great Millstone in Chicago. So, shalom to you if you're listening. So I'm just gonna read a quick little bit of history in regards to what happened, right? So let's see. Okay, so this is page 10 of the Negro Question, Part 4. So King Charles the First had an unlucky distinction from having his head cut off by the English white subjects in his realm. King Charles the First was not the only one to suffer from this indignation. When the English overran the country, they hung and decapitated the men, raped the women, burnt the citizens, and the stakes dashed the children against stones. This is the bit of history that is not taught or reported in the annals of world history, and that's right. This is a it's a lot of rich history of what was going on during that time, but this is something that they don't teach in the schools. The schools and these curriculums like to perpetuate this narrative that continues on to this day, that our people specifically and came out of Africa, and that is not true. We fled into Africa as refugees, but that's another lesson for another day. But the point I want to make is that is a narrative that is not 100% true. You also had Israelites who were ruling in these lands, like it says in the prophecy in Revelation 20. And eventually, during the time of the Renaissance period, we began to lose power and become like second and third class citizens, to the point where a lot of us were shipped off to the islands especially in the Caribbean, more specifically, right? As a matter of fact, in regards to the narrative, I just want to grab another quick scripture. So this is Job 13, verse 4. But ye are forgers of lies, and ye are physicians of no value, right? So this is the thing that, Esau and, these ruling class people are doing, because they're wiping away the history and telling you one thing, and the truth is coming out that, we were a royal people. We've always been a royal people, but we were in positions of power during these times, right? And it wasn't just a time where, there was a bunch of poverty and death and stuff like that. Like we were kings and queens who held positions of nobility. Keep in mind that during this time as well, we still had our people still going off, because you still had a lot of Israelites that were into Islam, and so on and so forth. But it was a time where we were actually in positions of power, and that is the information they don't want you to know, right? So they make up all these narratives and say that you were savages, you were beasts, you were nothing, and they use that to justify bringing in their whiteness, their what's the word I can call it, their heroic so-called behavior, right? Like Christopher Columbus was another one that using Christianity to bring into these people, because these people didn't know how to function, right? And so on and so forth. So this is the lie that they perpetuate, especially in the curriculum in schools, right? And it trickles down into our children and our children's children, and they have lost who they are, right? So actually, let me get a precept. Let's see. So this is Jeremiah 17, verse 4. And thou, even thyself, shalt discontinue from thine heritage that I gave thee, and I will cause thee to serve the enemies in the land which you knowest not, for you have kindled a fire in my anger, which shall burn forever. Right? So this is part of us discontinuing from our heritage, right? Further on in the book, it actually continues to explain that they were calling themselves Jacobites or Covenanters, right? Which is interesting because, they actually use the word Jakes as well. And there's only one group of people who call themselves that, and those people are Israelites, right? Jacob's name was changed to Israel, and he hath not dealt so with any other nation, right? As a matter of fact, let me get that precept. So this is Psalms 147, verse 19. He showed his word unto Jacob, and his statutes and his judgment unto Israel. He hath not dealt so with any nation, and for his judgments they have not known them. Praise ye the Lord Yahweh. Right? So these other nations have not known the Lord's judgments, right? And it's only our people that are able and have the ability to call themselves to be and keep the law, right? Right? So these people were actually Israelites at the end of the day. But anyways, I didn't really have much of a plan on how to like structure this. But hopefully this video was edifying. I'm probably going to make a couple more videos going more into the history in regards to what was going on during that time, because it's a very, very fascinating book. I will have to say there's a lot of history. There's pictures. It's easy to digest. So I strongly recommend it, and it relates a lot to prophecy, right? So let's just end off with one quick scripture in regards to these people's judgments. So this is Numbers 35, verse 33. Ye shall not pollute the land wherein ye are, for blood defileth the land, and the land cannot be cleansed of the blood that is shed therein, but by the blood of him that shed it, right? So, the land cannot be cleansed, because there is a lot of death and a lot of mishap that occurred between the Edomites and us Israelites that were ruling in those lands, right? Starting with this guy named Oliver Cromwell, and eventually a lot of death and blood were spilt on that land, and the only way to correct it and bring a balance is to have their blood shed, right? So again, hopefully this video was edifying. And I just like to give all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Rakakadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone for teaching us truth. If you like this subject, I want to bring on a little bit more on this, right? But until next time, I say Shalom.